something so improbable, the impossible has happened.
5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow! In your life have you seen anything like that?
Hey TJ, what's going on? I'm Chandler, and this is Tiger Beat Sports. Welcome to a special edition of this all crazy sports newscast.
Hey everybody, I'm Chandler with Sports, and this is the Sport Report.
Chandler with Sports is how he wants to go. With is his middle name, Sports his last name.
At the Sport Report, we pride ourselves on
neutral,
down the middle coverage
with an analytical spin.
We remove the bias so you can think about a team without any outside opinion.
No crazy points for attention.
No power rankings.
No opinions.
Just sports.
We're going to throw out the bias and throw in some facts. We're out to change the game. So without further ado,
here we go. Hit it, Blaze.
This is the Sport Report.
Hey everybody, I'm Chandler with Sports. This is the Sport Report. This week's edition, we cover the Super Bowl. We've got our NFL correspondent, Colby Volrath, joining us. We've also got some updates from college basketball and the end of the first half of the season to the NBA regular season. We're also gearing up for March Madness, which is about a month away, I think 26 days away. March 12th is Selection Sunday this year. With that in mind, let's kick off our final Around the NFL segment for this season.
Oh, Leon left. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. How in the world? Oh, my goodness.
Around the NFL.
Welcome to our final Around the NFL segment of 2022/2023. It's been an adventure. It's actually one great Super Bowl. The Eagles and the Chiefs. Colby, I think we called it a couple weeks ago. We said it was going to be I said it was going to be a barn burner. And you looked at me and went, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, no, I don't think it was going to be anything but a shootout.
I mean, it lived up to its hype.
It did.
The Kansas City Chiefs trailed by 10 at halftime. Rihanna basically announced to the world that, hey, I'm expecting baby number 2. And then the Chiefs came out of the locker room, down 24-14, scored a touchdown, almost had another fumble return for a touchdown by Nick Bolton, their linebacker, their 22-year-old linebacker, overturned. Hurts had a fumble. You know, I actually thought Hurts was going to win MVP until the Kansas City Chiefs turned it on late in the game. Kansas City Chiefs 38, Philadelphia Eagles 35. First and foremost, what surprised you the most about the game?
What surprised me the most about the game? I won't say what surprised me. I'd have to think about that. But immediately what comes to mind is honestly just how clean the game was from the refs in general. Obviously, we have a few plays that stick out, like the final penalty that kind of swung things, but James Bradbury admitted to the holding. So, in my mind, I believe that, that's not as controversial. The Dallas Goedert catch that was ended up ruled a catch could have gone either way, and same with the fumble catch incompletion. Was it Miles Sanders who had that by Nick Bolton? That was called an incompletion?
I believe so. I think it was Sanders. Yes, yeah. It was Sanders because he was coming out of the backfield on a little bit of a wheel route, and he didn't establish 2 feet, and he didn't make a football move, so that's why it was called incomplete. Yeah,
I think that's just the thing I enjoyed most about the game. It was very clean overall. A couple of calls that could have gone either way. End of the day, I think the better team won.
Well, I mean, clearly they won by 3. But and there are instances where the better team does not go according to script and doesn't win. But John Madden used to say the team that makes the fewest mistakes ends up being the better team and usually ends up winning the game.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm paraphrasing. But congrats to the Chiefs. It's Mahomes' second Super Bowl title, his second Super Bowl MVP, their third overall title as a franchise. Meanwhile, the Eagles are left ruining a few calls and a few moments in the game that didn't really change the outcome of the game per se. I mean, that holding call at the end we'll get to in a second. Or you've already touched on it. I'll explain it a little bit more. Other than that, the Eagles played a really clean game. It was almost perfect. Hurts had 1 fumble, but he had 3 rushing touchdowns. He's the first quarterback in Super Bowl history to have 3 rushing touchdowns. Threw for over 300 yards. I mean, he played a phenomenal game, and this was a phenomenal game in general. But Kansas City found a way to keep drives sustained
Eagles came out firing. The Eagles were the better team in the first half, and that showed with a lead at halftime. But coming out of halftime, the adjustments the Chiefs made won them the game. And I think that this game definitely did come down to the coaching. It was down to, like you touched on, the team that made the least mistakes was the Chiefs. That Jalen Hurts fumble was massive because it allowed the touchdown and then also the Bradbury holding. Just two mistakes that ultimately cost the Eagles a Super Bowl.
The holding penalty came later in the game. There was under 2 minutes to go, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, under 2 minutes. It was a third down play. And the way that Carl Cheffers, the head referee, described it was the receiver went to the inside, and he was attempting to release to the outside. The defender grabbed the jersey with his right hand and restricted him from releasing to the outside. So therefore, we call it defensive holding. So the grabbing of the jersey, which restricted his free release to the outside of the route, forced the refereeing crew to call defensive holding, not PI, because it wasn't in the act of the pass. It was before the pass, but it was outside of 5 yards from the line of scrimmage, which is what you're allowed to make contact in. So, and Bradbury even admitted that, it was a hold. Watching it real time, I actually yelled at the television, which wasn't a great idea. I yelled at the television that it wasn't a holding, and the rest of the people around me were like, "No, that's not a hold. No way." Oh, well, it was. And sadly, if you look at the replays, one angle shows it's not, another angle shows it is, so that'll be talked about for a long time. But at the end of the day, Kansas City and Philadelphia treated us to one of the best Super Bowls in recent memory and conclude an NFL season that was unforgettable in a lot of aspects, from catches to close games to game-winning drives to come-from-behind victories. We saw multiple 25-point comebacks this season. So I think we were treated to a wonderful season, and we have, almost just less than 6 months, I think like 190 days or something like that, until we start the new NFL season. I'm really excited for this upcoming offseason.
Can't wait. We got USFL starting in April. We have the NFL draft in April, right? I believe it's April.
Yep.
They switch it up sometimes between April and May, at least it feels like to me. So countdown to the combine begins, countdown to the draft. From there, it's, we get to enjoy USFL football for a bit until September 2023.
Yep, and the NFL season will begin on March 15th, which is 3 days after Selection Sunday for March Madness, which we'll touch on here in a minute as well. But the NFL draft is April 27th through April 29th, so we'll see what happens with that. But until then, I don't know if we'll cover the draft, probably will. But until then, it's been a fun season. Thanks to you. Thanks to David Miller for joining us this season as well. It's been a blast.
It's been a ton of fun. I've been grateful to be able to sit here and just talk football.
Yeah, no, it's always been fun when we record this and post it as well. So our thanks to our lovely correspondents for joining us. We'll have you guys on for other stuff as the year continues. A final few news and notes from this NFL season. There is a new class headed to Canton, Ohio this summer. Rondé Barber, Darrelle Revis, Joe Thomas, Zach Thomas, DeMarcus Ware, Don Coryell, who's going in as a coach and contributor, Chuck Howley, Joe Klecko, and Ken Riley, the last three being of the senior class. All 9 of those members, all 9 of those men are heading to Canton, Ohio this summer, as they had magnificent careers either on the field or on the sidelines as coaches and contributors to the National Football League. So congrats to all of them for that distinguished honor. In post 2022/2023 news, I guess you could say, the Philadelphia Eagles made it to the Super Bowl. They lost, and then they lost both of their coordinators. So their defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, is now the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, and their offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen, is now the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. So here's a trivia question for you guys. Who is the last Super Bowl team to lose both coordinators to head coaching jobs? We'll have that answer when we return in 2 weeks. The last time a Super Bowl participant lost both of its coordinators in the same offseason was after the 2016 season when the Atlanta Falcons lost Kyle Shanahan, who was their OC at the time, He became the Niners head coach, and he still is today. And they fired defensive coordinator Richard Smith, who took a job with the Chargers. Those changes came after the Falcons blew a 28-3 lead to Tom Brady and the Patriots and lost in overtime, 34-28, in Super Bowl 51. Gosh, that was 6 years ago? Okay, I feel old, in a sense. Great. Now at this point, Sean, you've probably heard that Sean Payton is the head coach of the Denver Broncos. He's trying to become the first head coach to win a Super Bowl with 2 different teams. You never know. Next season we could get Sean Payton versus Mike McCarthy, Broncos Cowboys, and the winner becomes the first head coach to win a Super Bowl with 2 different teams. You never know. Finally, something that happened on Twitter on Tuesday. Eagles receiver A.J. Brown called Juju Smith-Schuster a TikTok boy. I really thought Twitter was going to explode. But one player does not make up the whole Eagles team. I should point this out. The rest of the Eagles did not blame the holding penalty at the end of the Super Bowl. They didn't even blame the playing surface at State Farm Stadium in Phoenix, because that was terrible. We didn't even touch on that during Around the NFL. But the Eagles took responsibility. They were classy in defeat. So hats off to them for that. We wish them and the rest of the league nothing but success as the offseason rolls around, the new league year begins. With the NFL now concluded, the NBA, the NHL, and college basketball now take center stage, and pitchers and catchers have officially reported for spring training in Major League Baseball. Gosh, we got a fun couple months coming up. Quickly, we'll go through basketball, hockey, and college basketball. In the NBA, they're headed to the All-Star break this week and the beginning of next week. As they go into the All-Star break, the Boston Celtics have the best record in the league at 41-16. The Bucks and Sixers and Cavaliers, who are on a hot streak right now, are behind them. The Bucks have won 10 in a row. The Cavaliers have won 7 in a row. So keep that in mind in the Eastern Conference. In the newly revamped Western Conference, the Denver Nuggets are 40-18. They're the best team in that conference. 5 games ahead of the Memphis Grizzlies, 7 ahead of the Sacramento Kings, and 9 ahead of the Phoenix Suns. Between 5th place, actually we should start with 4th place in the Phoenix Suns, all the way down to 12th place with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Those 9 teams are separated by, 9 teams are separated by, get this, 3 games. Going to be very interesting. And the Lakers are 5 games out of 4th place and 2.5 games out of 10th place, the final wildcard spot in the NBA. So very interesting stuff. We will keep tabs on that as March and April roll around. The regular season is expected to end during the 2nd week of April. In hockey, the Boston Bruins are still the best team in the league. They have the top record in the Eastern Conference, but they have lost 4 out of 5, including 3 out of 4 since returning from the All-Star break. They're still 11 points ahead of the Toronto Maple Leafs and 13 points ahead of the defending Eastern Conference champion Tampa Bay Lightning. In the Metro, the Carolina Hurricanes lead the New Jersey Devils by 3 points. The Rangers, Capitals, and Penguins are behind them. Washington Capitals forward Alex Ovechkin is going to be missing an extended period of time, not due to injury, but due to some family events that are going on in Russia. So we wish him and his family nothing but the best. We hope everything gets sorted very soon. In the Western Conference, the Dallas Stars lead on 70 points in the Central Division with the Winnipeg Jets and Minnesota Wild and the defending Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche right behind them. In the Pacific Division, the Vegas Golden Knights and the LA Kings are battling for first and second, with the Seattle Kraken and Edmonton Oilers also within 3 points of the Golden Knights for third and fourth. Western Conference is going to be fantastic viewing material in not only hockey, but in basketball. Speaking of basketball, college basketball has a new number 1 team. For the first time in 20 seasons, the Alabama Crimson Tide are number 1 in college basketball. And now usually we're used to hearing that for college football, but not for college basketball. Nate Oates has his team riding high. They're 22-3, and they're leading the Southeastern Conference as well. Man, March Madness is really going to deliver this season. There's been 7 number 1 teams, get that, at different points in the season. But yeah, Alabama is the 7th number 1 team to appear at the top of the AP poll. For more information on college basketball, check out our bracketology page, thesprt.wordpress.com. We've also got a new Colorado page. We got a few things up our sleeve here. So we will be back in 2 weeks. We're taking the next 2 weeks off. There's not a lot of sports going on other than, hockey and basketball's at the All-Star break, and college basketball's going on. Tune into your local networks to keep tabs on those. For now, I'm Chandler with Sports. This was the Sport Report. We'll be back March 1st with the latest in sports.
For now, I'm Chandler.
So let it be written, so let it be done.
Thanks for tuning into the Sport Report today. We'll be back on our next episode with the latest in sports. Right now, we're still working on a website, but if you want to follow us on social media, we are at SR_CWS on Instagram and Twitter. You can also find our podcast on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, you name it. We're on almost every podcast platform.
This podcast is copyrighted by the Sport Report for viewers to understand sports from a news reporting basis. Any other use of this podcast, Sport Report logos, or anything associated with this podcast without the express written consent of Channel Sports is strictly prohibited.